Okay, so I was watching an episode of Trends in the News by Gerald Celente, and one of the things that they talked about was Chelsea Clinton running for president, and well, that's a terrible idea. Had enough Clintons in office. And another thing that they were talking about was the psychotropic drugs people were on. Now, Adam Lanza was on psychotropic drugs. You know, your antidepressant and shit like that. I remember that several of these other mass shooters were also on these things. I believe James Holmes was on it. I'm not quite sure. I believe the Virginia Tech guy was on it. Not quite sure. And I'm damn sure that the two Columbine kids were on Ritalin. Now, if you look back and notice, a lot of these psychotropic drugs don't exactly work. Now, I had somebody arguing with me, well, it's supposed to replace a chemical in the brain, and, you know, they're not getting enough of that to calm them down, and so you gotta make sure you get the right dosage, otherwise it may have a bad side effect. Well, seeing as though doctors don't like to take the time to do that because they're too busy, you know, jacking off and bathing in your wealth, perhaps, maybe, there needs to be other options, or doctors need to actually give two shits and a fuck. Now, I have a friend who was on these psychotropic drugs almost all of his life. Up until recently, about when he graduated high school is when he got off of them. He'd been on these psychotropic drugs all his life up until then, up until he got out of high school. The guy was nuts. I remember there was a day whenever me and him were sitting there in 6th grade. It was either 5th or 6th grade, you know, we were in the bleachers, because that's where you would wait before going to class. Some guy started mouthing off, and me and him, you know, we ain't taking this guy's shit. We walk up to him. Me being an asshole, I start burping the guy's face. I think I did more provoking than he did. Him and just his mouthing off. And thinking back, God, that's disgusting. The guy got fed up with me burping in his face, grabbed me by my shirt, threw me against the bleachers, and in slow motion, I watched that guy's fist cock back, and right before it connected to my face, I watched my friend's fist, that's his tiny fist, because, you know, he was like 2 foot tall at the time period, smash that guy in his jaw from the side. Then he threw him down into the bleachers and started knocking his fucking lights out. And I heard the bell ring, and I walked back, and then I looked back, and it took like 3 or 4 teachers to get him off that individual. Now let me give you a little bit more background on my friend. He had a very terrible home life. He's been on these psychotropic drugs since he was like 4 years old. He had Medicaid, so, you know, he was getting this stuff for free, and they were using him as sort of like a test subject, so to speak. He was the original Ritalin baby, and whenever they decided to start taking people off Ritalin, he was one of the few people they kept on. The guy was nuts and insane back in his youth. And what do? Let's keep upping the dosage on the drugs. Let's keep adjusting the dosage of the drugs. We kept putting on more and more drugs, different drugs. Drugs that always had negative side effects. And at the time period, he would go from all happy to very, very pissed off to suicidal, like the flip of a light switch. Then high school runs around. Very end of high school, he graduates a year before me because, well, I was a lazy bastard. He goes into the Navy. Gets signed up, goes to MEPS, all that other crazy shit. Spends a month in there, and because he's still getting all that shit out of his system because his body's just saturated with it, he has one last emotional issue. People were trying to turn him into a laughingstock because he was the shortest fucker there. Now, this guy has, because of the stuff that he's been on, he has an absurd amount of strength. I've seen him punch through TVs. Your old-fashioned bubble TVs with like the thick, inch-thick glass and all the LEDs. Yeah. Through the glass. His fist through the glass all the way up into the... Yeah, that shit. Never mind. You know what I'm talking about. His bare hands. He gets out of his bunk because people are making him a laughingstock because, well, you know, you're stressed out. They want to... What's the word I'm looking for? They want to cause as much shit as possible to get themselves off their own stress. And they looked at him as the easy person to victimize. And those bunks are made of a grade steel that we can't find anymore without super wonderful refining techniques. He took his fist, these same bunks that were used from like World War II all the way up until now, and he shoves it into one of these bunks so hard that it has the shape of his fist into it. And I would not have believed it if it was anyone else. This is all that same shit continuing on from when he was doing the psychotropic drugs at the government's request. Someone tells the Bay commander, or whatever the fuck, I don't know what they call the Navy drill sergeants, that he's threatening people, and I know he did threaten people. Told them all to shut up. And the amount of... He hit the thing hard enough that it rung out throughout the entire Bay. And even the crickets were quiet. He told them that the Bay commander, or whatever that guy was named, that he was threatening people, and they wound up sending him to the nut house. First person he calls is me. I don't know how he got the phone. I don't think he got it in a polite manner. And he calls me, tells me what happened. Me and him talk for a moment. He puts up the phone, comes back, lives off the government for a while. He still had a lot of that edginess from whenever he was taking the psychotropic drugs, because they put him on even more when he was there. Comes back, gets an apartment, lives off the government for a while because they send him money. And I watched him go from this psychopath who would knock the piss out of somebody at the slightest nod to just calm, cool, and relaxed. He also smoked weed. I mean, he's not like a major pothead who smokes as much weed as I do cigarettes. But he smoked. He smoked. And he's never been so calm in his life, and he's only had one or two incidences in the past 3-4 years where he's had any sort of episode. And he never hurt anyone during those time periods. He's still getting a lot of that shit out of his system. So as soon as he got off it, he was good, which tells me this. This individual only got better as soon as he got off the fucking drugs and changed his damn environment. You mean to tell me that these psychotropic drugs are a good thing? I look at these pills as suicide pills, as death pills, because I look at all these people that I know personally, and when they're on the antidepressants, they're more fucking insane than they were before. Which is why I'm glad my girlfriend doesn't take antidepressants. I believe marijuana alone would solve a lot of these depression issues. I believe so. I'm for legalization, but would I smoke weed? Personally, no, I wouldn't. I've seen the things I've done when I was high, and no, never again. And on a final note, you know those eye thingies for the Xbox? I can't remember what they're called. The Kinect. You can make those things malfunction if you drop your pants. You see, they have little white lights around your eyes, your face, your hands, your feet, and if you drop your pants, your penis. And now you know why I don't smoke weed. That being said, I'm done. I think it's the psychotropic drugs that cause a lot of the mental illnesses here. And I believe Aaron Alexis, the DC yard shooter guy, also was taking these things. Correct me if I'm wrong. He also believed that the government was... people were following him with microwaves and inputting things into his brain. If you look at the shotgun, my elf gun! What the fuck is the elf? What the hell was he referring to there? The only thing I find suspicious about the DC yard shooting was that if you looked at the footage and you zoomed in, you get decent detail on everything except for his face. Why is that happening? It's things like that that make the conspiracy theorists go on rampages. Anyways, I can go do some other things now. Have a nice day. I want to know what you guys think about this.